Transformation doesn't happen by accident. It begins with a conscious decision, a choice you make deep within yourself. 1 hour a day might not sound like much, but when it's powered by a firm decision, it becomes a lever that can move your entire life. Most people never change because they never decide. They talk about it, think about it, complain about it, but they never decide with conviction. The truth is, life responds to decisions made with certainty. Until you decide that 1 hour belongs to your growth, nothing around you will change. There's a moment where you stop negotiating with your excuses. That moment is the birthplace of change. You might be tired, you might be busy, but when your decision is strong enough, your actions fall in line. People think transformation takes years, but it starts the moment you get tired of your own story. It starts the day you decide that even 1 hour is too valuable to waste. Most of the breakthroughs you're waiting for aren't behind a miracle, they're behind a bare moment of clarity where you choose to stop tolerating mediocrity. One decision backed by daily action will do more for your future than years of wishful thinking. You don't need to figure everything out. You just need to decide and follow through for 1 hour every single day. People want new results without making new decisions. They want a better life without better habits. But the decision to devote 1 hour to yourself each day is not just a new habit, it's a declaration. You're saying, I refuse to stay where I am. That kind of energy attracts momentum. That kind of focus invites change. One decision made in strength beats 1,000 half-hearted attempts. Your environment may not change instantly, but your internal state will. That hour each day becomes your signal to the world and to your signal that you're serious. You begin to see yourself differently. You begin to act differently. The more you decide and follow through, the more you shift your identity into someone who gets things done. People will start to notice something different about you. They won't know what it is at first, but it'll show up in your focus, in your energy, in the way you carry yourself. That one decision to claim an hour and protect it with purpose will do more to change your future than any opportunity handed to you. A true decision closes the door on distractions. It eliminates the need for further discussion. When you decide to give yourself 1 hour a day, it's no longer optional. It becomes non-negotiable. It becomes part of who you are. And that's when change becomes inevitable. There's a difference between spending time and investing time. That 1 hour a day becomes powerful when it's tied to a purpose. If you use it to scroll, to complain, to kill time, it's gone. But if you use it to build, to learn, to focus, that hour becomes a source of strength. Purpose transforms time. It adds weight to each second. You begin to measure your hour not by what the clock says, but by what you accomplished in it. Purpose gives you something to fight for. It keeps you from drifting. That hour becomes your training ground, your classroom, your lab, your arena. It's where you sharpen your skills, organize your thoughts, and align your actions. When time is wrapped in intention, you start getting results that once felt out of reach. What once took months to understand, you begin to grasp in weeks. You're not just living anymore, you're growing. When you approach your hour with purpose, you stop watching others and start becoming someone worth watching. You stop asking, what should I do? And start asking, what must I become? That switch is where the power comes from. You begin shaping your identity around progress. Every minute becomes meaningful. You no longer dread the work, you respect it because it's aligned with where you're headed. Purpose removes hesitation. You no longer waste your hour overthinking or doubting. You use it. You show up with a clear goal. Maybe you're writing your book. Maybe you're studying your craft. Maybe you're working on your body, your faith, your business. Whatever it is, you're working from the inside out because your actions are now rooted in something deeper than emotion. Without purpose, that hour feels like a chore. With purpose, it becomes fuel. It becomes therapy. It becomes your daily appointment with greatness. The people around you may not understand why you're so focused, but they don't have to. That hour is yours. And when you give it meaning, you give yourself momentum. The more you pour into that hour, the more it pours into you. You begin to feel different. Your confidence shifts, your language changes, you start showing up in rooms with a different posture. Not because someone permitted you, but because you've been putting in the work. That hour done right teaches you who you are. Purpose isn't found, it's built brick by brick inside the hour you once overlooked. Every time you use that hour with intention, you're saying, this is who I am becoming. That kind of focus doesn't just change your schedule, it changes your life. The world praises big moves, but real progress hides in consistency. 1 hour of intentional effort every day is more powerful than 10 hours once a month. Big spurts of energy look good on the outside, but they don't last. The person who shows up daily, even quietly, will always outlast the one who shows up when it's convenient. You don't need to move mountains in a day, you just need to show up and move one rock at a time. The power is in the routine. When you commit to 1 hour a day, you develop rhythm. You train your mind to expect progress. You build stamina. You start to create a streak, and with every streak comes strength, and momentum builds through repetition, not bursts of motivation. If you only act when you feel inspired, you'll never build anything that lasts. Small efforts stack. What feels like a drop in the bucket today becomes an ocean over time. Every book you read, every note you write, every rep you finish, it all counts. The compound effect is real. At first, the progress is invisible. But then one day, people call you lucky, not realizing how long you've been working in silence. 1 hour doesn't just build skill. It builds a legacy. The grind isn't glamorous, and it's not supposed to be. That 1 hour a day might not get applause, but it will get results. The person who commits to the small effort daily for it doesn't shake them. They're not chasing quick wins, they're building something that can't be taken away. Something rooted, something real, and it all starts with 1 hour. There's something powerful about knowing you've done your part for the day. Even when the rest of your life feels chaotic, that hour becomes your anchors. It reminds you that you're not powerless, you're not stuck, you're building. That kind of consistency creates inner peace and outer results. People often give up because they expect results too fast. But progress doesn't work on your timeline, it works on your consistency. When you show up every day, even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it, you prove to yourself that you're not controlled by feelings, you're controlled by decisions. That's how growth becomes permanent. Every big success you admire was built through small daily efforts. The speeches, the songs, the businesses, the transformations, they all started with someone saying, let me give it 1 hour today. And then they did it again tomorrow. Discipline is not just about routines, it's about how you view yourself when no one is watching. Every time you tell yourself, I'll do it, and you follow through, you're building something far more valuable than skill. You're building trust with yourself. That trust turns into self-respect. And self-respect turns into confidence. The kind of confidence that can't be faked, bought, or borrowed, it's earned hour by hour, decision by decision. It's easy to admire discipline in other people, but until you experience it in yourself, you'll never feel truly powerful. Discipline isn't about being rigid, it's about being real with yourself. Real enough to say, I don't feel like it today, but I'm going to do it anyway. That moment when you show up without feeling like it, that's when you break limitations off your identity. You're no longer driven by how you feel, you're driven by who you want to become. The reason most people don't respect themselves is that they break promises to themselves every single day. They hit snooze, they skip the workout, they postpone the plan. And every time they do, they chip away at their own identity. You can't build self-respect on broken commitments. It comes from consistency, from the thing you said you would do, especially when it's hard. That kind of discipline rewires how you see yourself. You stop needing approval because you've already earned your own. Discipline trains your emotions. It teaches you not to chase comfort, but to chase character. That's why that 1 hour a day is so powerful. It's not just about what you're working on, it's about the fact that you're doing it day after day. When your body is tired, when your mind is busy, when no one claps for you. That's where real pride comes from. Not ego, but that grounded self-respect that says, I know who I am because I put in the work. The most dangerous thing about a lack of discipline is it convinces you you're not capable. Every skipped hour becomes a message to yourself, maybe I'm not serious. That message becomes your identity. But the opposite is also true. Every disciplined hour becomes a message I follow through. I keep showing up. I do hard things. That message repeated daily becomes your new standard, and from that standard you rise. People often look for confidence in books, in seminars, in applause, but confidence grows best in private. That 1 hour where you train, study right, or create, that's where your posture begins to change. Not because someone hyped you up, but because you've got evidence. You don't need to fake strength when discipline has already built it inside you. It's the quiet kind of confidence, the kind that walks into a room and doesn't need to announce itself. Discipline gives you a scoreboard only you can see. And every time you win, every time you show up, that scoreboard shifts in your show. You start holding your head higher, not because things are perfect, but because you're showing up for yourself. You're not letting yourself down. You're building something on the inside that nobody can take from you. And that's when life starts treating you differently, too. Most people stay stuck not because they lack potential, but because they overthink themselves into paralysis. They sit around waiting for clarity to show up before they act, not realizing that clarity is something you create, not something you wait for. 1 hour a day focused on doing instead of doubting will teach you more about your path than 1,000 hours of analysis. Clarity is not found in your head. It's discovered in movement, built through repetition and revealed through effort. When you do something again and again, patterns start to emerge. You begin to see what works and what doesn't. You notice what drains you and what fuels you, but none of that is available until you start. People want to have everything figured out before they begin, but the truth is nothing becomes clear until you're in it. 1 hour a day in motion will expose more truth than endless theories. Repetition filters out confusion by forcing you to face reality. Repetition sharpens your instincts. Anxiety gives you real-world feedback. You stop guessing and start knowing. Every time you do the thing, whether it's writing, creating, training, studying, or building, you gain a clear sense of what matters and becomes. You can't fake that kind of clarity. You earn it. The more you repeat, the more you refine. You no longer need someone to hand you the answers because the process itself reveals them. Overthinking is a trap dressed up as intelligence. It feels productive, but it's rooted in fear. It's driven by a desire to avoid mistakes, to stay safe, to never look foolish. But the only way to rise is to risk, and repetition gives you the confidence to do that. You don't eliminate fear by thinking your way out of it. You eliminate fear by outworking it with action. 1 hour a day of consistent repetition will silence doubts faster than any motivational quote ever could. When you repeat something, your brain starts to recognize patterns, and with that comes power. You start making decisions faster. You see through distractions. You become efficient, focused, and dangerous in the best way. That kind of clarity doesn't come from sitting still. It comes from stepping forward, even when the road isn't perfectly lit. Repetition turns uncertainty into understanding, and understanding turns into confidence. People think mastery is about talent, but mastery is really about exposure. The more you expose yourself to your craft 1 hour at a time, the more fluid you become. You stop questioning if you're on the right path because your results start answering that for you. Repetition removes the noise. It filters out the unnecessary. It shows you what's real and strips away what's just theory. That's how you begin to move with certainty, not because you have a map, but because you've walked the terrain. The clarity you're waiting for will never arrive while you're sitting still. It shows up in the doing and the rhythm, the sweat. The more you do, the more you know. And the more you know, the less you doubt. That 1 hour a day, done again and again, becomes your guide. Not your thoughts, not your worries, your actions. The rhythm of showing up of Shiva directions. Your direction gives you peace even when the path is still unfolding. The world only sees the results, but those results are born in isolation. That 1 hour you put in when no one is watching, when there's no applause, no audience, no validation, that's the hour that matters most. People think success happens on the stage, but the truth is success happens in the shadows. It happens in the silence of early mornings, in the discipline of late nights, in the lonely grind that most people avoid because there's no spotlight on it yet. Every rep you put in, every sentence you write, every strategy you study, pouring bricks into a foundation that no one can see. But one day that foundation will support something the world can't ignore. People will look at your life and think it came out of nowhere, but you'll know exactly where it came from. It came from the hours you carved out in private when nobody clapped and nobody cared except you. There is a sacred kind of power that gets built in private. When you're working on yourself in silence, you're not performing, you're transforming. There's no pretending in that space, no pressure to impress, just you and the work. That kind of environment forces growth because it removes distractions. It forces you to confront your habits, your weaknesses, and your mindset. And every day you stay committed to that process, you're sculpting a version of yourself the public hasn't seen yet. Private effort creates public confidence. That calm, that presence, that certainty people see in winners, it didn't come from luck, it came from reps. Quiet, consistent, uncomfortable reps. When you put in the time behind the scenes, it shows on the surface. Not in loud words, but in your demeanor and your decisions. In the way you carry yourself. You become the kind of person who doesn't have to talk about what they're doing because eventually the results will start doing the talking for you. One of the greatest rewards of private work is that it makes you undeniable. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. Your preparation becomes your proof. And people respect proof. They might ignore you at first. They might doubt you. They might even laugh. But keep showing up for that 1 hour a day, and over time they'll have no choice but to see you differently. Not because you demanded respect, but because your consistency earned it. The world respects results, but results only grow in the soil of privacy. You plant the seed in silence, water it daily with discipline, and trust the process. Eventually something breaks through the surface. People notice. They say, "Like how you did it." But they'll never fully understand what it took because they weren't there when it was just you and the grind. They didn't see the sacrifices, the doubts, the mornings you showed up anyway. And that's okay because you weren't doing it for their approval. You were doing it for your future. There is no such thing as a wasted private hour. Even when you don't feel the progress, the growth is happening quietly, steadily, beneath the surface. And when the moment comes when the lights turn on and the world is watching, you won't have to perform. You'll just do what you've always done. Because the real you, the one you've been building all along, will be ready. And everyone will see the result of what you've been doing in silence all this time. The mind is like a muscle. It doesn't grow when things are easy. It grows when it's pushed, stretched, and taken beyond its current capacity. Most people spend their lives avoiding challenges because they confuse comfort with peace. But comfort doesn't lead to growth. Challenges do. That 1 hour a day where you struggle, where your brain is working overtime, where nothing comes easy, that's where your mind is being expanded and rewired for greatness. When you push through something mentally tough, you leave that session changed. You walk out a little sharper, you think a little clearer. You realize that the limits you thought you had weren't real, they were just familiar. The discomfort of growth is temporary, but the impact is permanent. When you stretch your thinking through effort, your confidence starts to rise, not because you have mastered it yet, but because you were willing to face it. People often wait until they feel ready to take on mental challenges, but the truth is readiness is a result of engagement, not a prerequisite. You become ready in the fire of doing. The more you challenge your thinking, the more your thinking begins to adapt. What was once hard becomes routine. What once intimidated you becomes a tool in your arsenal. That's the reward of mental struggle. It builds capacity and mental toughness that can't be taught in theory. You realize that the limits you thought you had weren't real, they were just familiar. The discomfort of growth is temporary, but the impact is permanent. When you stretch your thinking through effort, your confidence starts to rise, not because you have mastered it yet, but because you were willing to face it. People often wait until they feel ready to take on mental challenges, but the truth is readiness is a result of engagement, not a prerequisite. You become ready in the fire of doing. The more you challenge your thinking, the more your thinking begins to adapt. What was once hard becomes routine. What once intimidated you becomes a tool in your arsenal. That's the reward of mental struggle. It builds capacity and mental toughness that can't be taught in theory. 1 hour a day where your brain is fully engaged, where you're learning, problem solving, or creating can change your entire mental identity. It forces your mind to reach, and in the reaching, it discovers new abilities. It's not just about acquiring information. It's about shaping the way you process reality. Challenges make your mind more resourceful. You stop looking for easier paths and start building the strength to walk through harder ones. The brain hates pain in the moment, but it thrives off it long term. Just like muscles grow from resistance, the brain grows from difficulty. When something confuses you, frustrates you, overwhelms you, that's a sign you're in the right place. That's the mental gym. That's where neurons fire, connections build, and understanding deepens. It's not glamorous, but it's powerful. Every tough mental hour makes the next one feel lighter. You can't expand your mind in autopilot mode. You need friction. You need resistance. You need moments where you don't know what you're doing, but you commit anyway. That's when the breakthroughs come. That's when new levels of thought emerge. And those new levels become the foundation for everything else, your decisions, your goals, your leadership. A stronger mind leads to a stronger life. But it has to be earned through challenge. The mind that is never challenged becomes lazy, foggy, and fragile. But the mind that is challenged daily becomes clear, focused, and bold. That 1 hour of stretching every single day sharpens your edge. You begin to see opportunities others miss. You begin to think deeper, speak clearly, act smarter. Not because you're naturally gifted, but because you've been training. You've been confronting weakness with intention. You've been expanding the very engine that drives your future. Excuses lose their power the moment progress begins. The minute you see yourself moving forward, no matter how small the step, it shuts down the inner voice that keeps saying, it's staying late, it's too hard, I don't know how. 1 hour of intentional action makes it harder to justify inaction. Because once you've proven to yourself that progress is possible, the old reasons that used to hold you back start sounding weak and outdated. Progress is proof. When you take a step forward and feel that momentum build, your brain starts shifting. It begins to believe again. And belief kills excuses. That's why so many people are stuck, not because they can't move, but because they haven't moved yet. They've let the idea of difficulty paralyze them. But as soon as progress enters that picture, even in the smallest way, the energy shifts. You start thinking less about what you can't do and more about what you're already doing. 1 hour a day of steady, focused action chips away at every excuse you've ever made. It builds undeniable evidence that you are capable, that you are not lazy, that you are not a quitter. Progress becomes your rebuttal to every limiting belief. It's hard to keep saying I can't when you've already done it yesterday. It's hard to keep saying I'm not ready when you've already started building momentum. Progress becomes your defense, your weapon, your reminder that motion is stronger than fear. People love to hide behind excuses because it gives them comfort. It removes the pressure to act. But progress removes the need for comfort. Once you start making gains, even if they're small, you stop craving ease and start craving excellence. You begin to value growth over safety. And when you see what 1 hour can do, you want to double down. You want more. That's the silent power of progress. It rewires your appetite. The truth is, most excuses don't come from reality. They come from fear, doubt, and past failures. But progress doesn't care about your past. It only works with what you're willing to do today. That's what makes it so freeing. You don't need to fix everything at once, just make one move. And that move sets off a chain reaction. Suddenly, you're not the person who keeps making excuses. You're the person who's too busy making progress to entertain them anymore. When you start stacking days, when you start seeing the fruits of your consistency, your mind changes. You stop tolerating your excuses. You stop negotiating with laziness. You become allergic to wasting time. Not because someone else told you to work harder, but because you've tasted the power of progress. You know what it feels like to grow, and you refuse to go back to stagnation. That's when your discipline deepens, not out of guilt, but out of hunger for more forward motion. Excuses can't survive in the presence of action. Every time you choose to show up, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable, you weaken the old narrative that used to control you. 1 hour a day compounded over time doesn't just move you toward your goals, it transforms your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who needs motivation, and you start seeing yourself as someone who gets things done no matter what. People underestimate the power of one focused hour. They think if they can't do 8, it's not worth doing one. But that's a lie. 1 hour a day committed to a single purpose has the power to change everything. It's not about how much time you have, it's about what you do with the time you're wasting. 1 hour of discipline, 1 hour of progress, 1 hour of uninterrupted focus can flip the script on your entire life. You don't need a 10-year plan to build a better future. You need an hour today. That hour becomes your seed. Every time you show up for it, you're watering that seed. People talk about building dreams, but dreams are built in hours, not in talk, not in wishes. Not complaining about time. 1 hour a day is 365 hours a year. That's more than 9 full work weeks. Imagine what you could create with that time if you stopped letting it pass by unnoticed. That hour isn't just about output, it's about becoming. It's about shaping the version of you that's capable of handling more, doing more, being more. That hour is your training ground. You show up, you struggle, you grow. And each day, you become someone who keeps their word to themselves. You become someone who doesn't just dream, but builds. You start walking differently, talking differently, thinking differently, not because of big wins, but because of distant time in the train chest. 1 hour a day stacks up. It compounds. You don't always see the reward immediately, and that's why most people quit. But if you stay with it, if you commit to it like your future depends on it, you start to realize that nothing in your life has more power than your daily actions. It's not what you do once in a while that shapes you, it's what you do every day, especially when nobody's watching and the results haven't come in yet. Think about all the distractions that steal your time, scrolling, worrying, procrastinating, and doubting yourself. Now imagine if you took just one of those hours and used it for your purpose instead. The same phone that keeps you distracted could teach you a skill. The same silence you sit in could be used to create. The same time you use to complain could be used to build. You don't need more hours, you need better use of the ones you already have. The life you want isn't some fantasy floating in the future. It's built in the hours you invest when nobody is clapping for you yet. That hour is your laboratory. It's your grind zone. It's your secret weapon. Every great achievement starts with a quiet, committed hour that no one respects it for. But in time, those hours start to reveal themselves. People start to notice the growth. They call it talent, but it was time. They call it luck, but it was labor. There's a shift that happens when you respect 1 hour a day. You stop feeling like life is something happening to you and start realizing that it's something you're building. 1 hour at a time. You begin to take ownership of your goals. You stop waiting for the right moment. You stop hoping someone else will come and push you. You realize that the life you want isn't out of reach, it's just waiting for you to show up consistently, 1 hour at a time. Success isn't a lightning strike, it's a slow burn. It's not about waking up one day and being great. It's about showing up day after day, even when nobody sees you, even when nobody claps for you, even when the results haven't kicked in yet. People chase overnight success stories because they look glamorous, but the truth is, real success is boring on most days. It looks like repetition, focus, and grit, not applause and a spotlight. That 1 hour a day, when repeated consistently, becomes a silent force in your life. You don't always notice the changes that's happening. You don't feel dramatically different after one session or even after 10. But after 90, after 200, you're not the same person anymore. Your confidence grows, your skills sharpen, and your mindset evolves. Consistency carves out a new version of you without you even realizing it. The problem is that most people stop too early. They show up for a few days, and when the results don't scream back at them, they retreat. But that's not how success works. Success waits to see if you mean it. It waits to see if you're willing to be consistent when there's no reward in sight. That 1 hour you put in, especially when you don't feel like it, is the hour that builds character, and character attracts opportunity. There's a rhythm to consistency. Once you lock into it, it starts pulling you forward. Your mind starts craving it. You feel uncomfortable when you skip it. That's when you know you're turning a corner. The habit is taking root. The process is sinking in. And that's when things begin to shift, because the goal is no longer just to reach a result. The goal becomes to never stop growing. Consistency doesn't mean perfection. You'll have off days. You'll have setbacks. But consistency is about getting back to the work, getting back to the discipline. You don't let one missed day turn into a missed week. You don't let failure write your story. You keep pressing forward, knowing that showing up is your responsibility beyond when results are outside your control. Over time, consistency separates you, not because you're smarter or more talented, but because you simply didn't quit. You outlasted the doubt. You outlasted the distractions. You kept stacking hours while others waited for motivation. That 1 hour done every single day becomes your proof. You no longer have to talk about it. People start to see it. They feel the difference in your presence, in your focus, in your work ethic. There is no shortcut more powerful than consistency. It's the quiet engine behind every breakthrough. It's the unseen discipline that builds visible results. And it's available to anyone, not just the naturally gifted, not just the privileged. Anyone can be consistent, but few choose to be, and that's exactly what makes it so valuable. You can work for 10 hours distracted and achieve less than 1 hour of focused effort. Focus is what turns average actions into powerful progress. 1 hour a day of pure, undistracted, locked-in focus can outwork a full day of half-hearted attempts. Focus sharpens your mind. It puts your energy where it matters. And in a world where everyone's attention is scattered, focus becomes a rare and dangerous advantage. Most people don't need more time. They need better focus. They think they're working, but their mind is jumping from thought to thought, tab to tab, message to message. That's not work. That's noise. True focus is when your entire being is locked into one task. No distractions, no multitasking, no mental clutter. Just you and the mission. And that's when real progress happens, because your brain is firing in one direction instead of 20. The hour you give to your purpose must be guarded like your life depends on it, because it does. That's the hour when dreams are built. That's the hour when your edge is sharpened. But if that hour is filled with half focus, it loses its power. 1 hour of full focus will stretch your mind, strengthen your skills, and speed up your learning in ways that a distracted time never will. The more focused you are, the faster you learn. The more focused you are, the clearer your decisions become. Focus brings clarity to chaos. It simplifies your thoughts. It allows you to identify what matters and cut off what doesn't. That's how you gain ground. You stop wasting time on things that look urgent but add no value. Focus isn't just about intensity, it's about direction. Focus also builds self-trust. Every time you sit down and give something your full attention, you're proving to yourself that you're capable of deep work. You're training your brain to be stronger than distractions. You're rewiring your mind to engage, not escape. And the more you do it, the more confident you become in your ability to lock in, which creates a cycle of focus that compounds over time. It's not easy. Your phone will pull at you. Notifications will tempt you. Your thoughts will try to wander. But if you can learn to dominate 1 hour of focus a day, you'll eventually dominate entire days. The discipline of focus starts small. 1 hour of mental clarity in a day full of noise is enough to start moving you forward at lightning speed. That's what separates the successful, not more hours, but more powerful ones. While others are busy being busy, you're focused on getting results. And it shows in the way you move, in the quality of your work, in the speed of your growth. Focus multiplies every ounce of effort. And it's always within reach if you're willing to take control of your attention.